we're not sitting in the House of Commons right now where these issues need to be debated. We are not getting the story from the Prime Minister. He's gotten a free ride over the summer, and the ride's over.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everybody. We have a special guest on with us today. And when I say special, I do not understate that, because this person is a man that we met during the 2025 federal election campaign down in Niagara. He wrestled a riding that has not been conservative since the 1980s, folks. 1980s is how long it has not been blue. He joins us today from Niagara South. He's a patriotic, passionate Canadian. Friend Davies, welcome to Northern Perspective.
Thank you, Ryan. It's good to see you. Tanya, nice to see you too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so a 40-year search to find somebody to actually get this riding back, and it's been so long that the riding has even been renamed a couple times during that period. But before we get into the election and all of that, why don't you talk us through how you got into politics in the first place? Because the federal race wasn't your first venture into politics, was it?
No, actually, I started my career in the House of Commons in 1979 as the first staff member hired by Ger Fretz, who was the last Conservative member who won the original riding of Erie, which is mostly my riding today. So I got the political bug when I was pretty early on. I went to my first convention when I was 17 in Quebec City when Joe Clark had been recently elected leader. So I spent about 8 years on Parliament Hill, moved back to Niagara. At the time, thinking that I might want to run someday, but I got into business, and for the next 40 years, I have been spending my time building my businesses and being a part of the community in Niagara. But this sort of came about as a result of a number of different issues, not the least of which was my anger over the carbon tax and how it was affecting my companies and people in my riding. It was a game changer for me, and that was, I think, one of the key issues that got me into the campaign. And
in terms of the actual federal campaign, so there was that came out rather abruptly, Trudeau resigning, Carney taking over, and then immediately calling an election after he tried to take credit for getting rid of the carbon tax.
All of our policies?
Oh, yeah. Right. So what was that experience like, having the writ dropped, and then there's this sprint to the election and then election night?
Well, look, we had been at it for well over a year, knocking on doors. Before the writ dropped, I think we had already knocked on about 30,000 doors. And the desire for change was pretty evident in my riding. I'm a border riding, so there were a lot of issues that were affecting us coming in from the U.S. But when the writ dropped in January, we thought it was going to be close, but the doors were still saying we had a really good chance of winning this riding. But after about 16 months of knocking on doors, the analytics stayed pretty much the same. But I felt on election day, as I said to my wife Monica, I'm rather going to win this by 200 votes or I'm going to get my ass kicked. So, but it turned out to be a good night. It was later in the evening when we found the results. But it was an unbelievable moment because it had been so many decades in the making. And this was not my victory. This win belonged to everybody who knocked on doors with me. And we had a really good team.
What was that like when you finally either heard that the riding was called in your favor or that you finally believed that the riding was called in your favor?
My campaign manager, we were at my wife's restaurant when the results were coming in, and my campaign manager was taking results on her computer. And she said, you got it, you won. I said, no, I need more. I could see the spreadsheet, and she said, you're far enough ahead that you're going to win. I said, no, I'm not prepared to call this yet. I need, where are the advanced polls? So it was late. It was probably around midnight where I finally said, I exhaled and said, wow, we actually pulled this off after so many years. It was, I get a shiver now even thinking back on that evening, because it was such a proud moment for all of us that were involved in that campaign.
So what was it like the first time that you stepped onto Parliament Hill as an MP?
You know, my wife and I went up shortly after Election Day, and we're going up just for a trip, and we walked in. I didn't have ID yet, and I wasn't sworn in, but I said to one of the guards in front of the house, "Can we go into on the floor of the House of Commons?" He said, "Absolutely, you're an MP." I said, "Well, not yet. I'm not." And I was still trying to get it was still sinking into me. But when we walked on the floor of the House of Commons, it was like a wave of pride and humility and joy and happiness. And, you know, it's really hard to describe. That chamber is an amazing institution. And interestingly, when I was on Parliament Hill in the 80s, the West Block was all MP offices. And where the house is now was a courtyard with grass and picnic tables. We used to have our lunch out there. And I remember when I got up to say my maiden speech, I made reference to the fact that we were sitting in the courtyard where I'd had many lunches and conversations with people that I worked with in the 80s. So it was pretty special to be walking into that institution. It really reflects what it is to be a Canadian. And, you know, there's no better feeling. And I wish more Canadians could feel that in their country, to realize that we do live in the best country in the world. Our democracy is strong. As much as we wish the election had gone the other way, you know, we respect it, and we'll get another chance. But that institution is something that every Canadian should get an opportunity to come into that House of Commons and feel what it means to be a Canadian there.
One of the things that we saw in the last session, when Trudeau was Prime Minister, was we saw a lot of arrogance from Liberal politicians. We saw a lot of aloofness and a lot of elitism in terms of how they were speaking in the House and even outside of the House. In a lot of Conservative MPs we've asked them, do you feel the hopes and dreams of your constituents, even only in your riding, but across Canada as we head into this? And the response has been the same. So before I tell you what they've said to me, what do you feel when you're in the House now and you think about the fact that your constituents put you there?
Well, a couple of things. One is, it is the most humbling experience anyone can feel, standing up in the House of Commons. And the people that I've gotten to know on our side of the House, these are passionate, committed Canadians who have a love for the country and a dedication to wanting to make it better. And I'll say this of all members of the House: nobody goes to the House of Commons to make Canada a worse place. I mean, I've met a lot of MPs on both sides of the House, and we are all there to do what is best for our constituents. But I got to tell you, the team of people that I've met on the Conservative side of the House, probably the most intelligent people that I've come to know. These are really interesting people who have got a depth of knowledge and policy and legislation, all very willing to help us newbies out. And we've got a good group of newcomers to the House. I mean, there's 24 new MPs that from previous flipped ridings. Some really good talent. I've met some really spectacular people, and every day is a learning experience. But every day is a demonstration of how we are approaching every issue, not with any knee-jerk reaction. We dive into these issues, they're being analyzed, and we are coming up with solutions that we believe are in the best interest of Canadians.
Yeah, a lot of the Conservatives have told us they really feel the weight and the importance of the faith that their constituents have placed on them. And it helps keep them grounded, because we also hear that there's this bubble around Ottawa, and the bubble can change you unless you can really anchor yourself to where you came from, why you're there. And because when you're in Ottawa, everyone around you as a member of Parliament or as a cabinet minister, they're treating you with this importance, and it can go to your head in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So how do you think the veterans have stayed grounded, and how do you think you're going to stay grounded?
Look, it's a privilege to be there. No MP should feel as though they're there because of what they did. They're there because Canadians put them there. Never take that for granted. And whenever I come back to the riding, it is always about the people that put me there. We opened our constituency offices over the last couple of weeks, and I'm making it very clear to everyone that I'm there to represent everybody in that riding, whether they voted for me or not. And one of the things I did in my maiden speech was I asked all of the mayors and the 4 mayors of the 4 cities in my riding to give me what they wanted to see on the record that reflected their community. And it was interesting because every one of these mayors gave me a quote that I read into the record. And I said, this is not me speaking. These are the leaders in my riding. And if I'm reflecting their views and bringing their concerns to the floor of the House, that means I'm representing them well. It's not what Fred is doing. It is what is best for the riding and what people are telling me they need to see happen in the House of Commons.
And what are people in your riding saying that they need to see in the House of Commons?
The answer to that question goes in so many different directions. Look, they want change, but they want accountability. But look, one of the issues that we have right now, the House rose just at a time when we really needed to be there to dive into the key issues of trade, of the economy, housing, inflation, cost of living, our burgeoning debt. We're now coming up to a 92 or 93 billion dollar deficit for this fiscal year,
according to CD Howe,
and we don't have a budget. How? And Parliament is not sitting. My constituents are concerned that they want to see transparency, and as this honeymoon will come to an end, because the accountability and the transparency is coming to the floor of the House of Commons. We know that, and that can't come soon enough. Now, we've heard that there may be a budget in early October, late in the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year, where the money's already been spent. What kind of transparency does that bring to Canadians? So, there's a lot of work to do, and I know that when Pierre coming back in the House, which I'm looking forward to him taking his seat again, we will hold this government to account, and I'm looking forward to watching him back in the House.
Now, one of the things that we've heard behind the scenes is the NDP has made genuine attempts to no longer be just the lapdogs of the Liberal Party in this session. They seem to understand that however you want to classify them conducting themselves in the 45th Parliament was completely political suicide.
Yeah, 44th.
44th. The last Parliament, everybody knows what I mean. You now have an NDP that seems to be very humbled, and they seem to understand that they need to be an opposition party first and foremost when it comes to the Liberal government. Is that a sense that you're starting to get from the NDP as well as the Bloc? Like, even though the 3 opposition parties are opponents on the political stage, you need to be somewhat teammates in order to hold this government to account.
Well, look, even though the NDP are down to 7 seats, they still hold the balance of power. Mm-hmm. And I think they know that. But what I've seen so far is a rather disorganized effort. They're not well positioned in the House. They're not taking. I just don't see them as being relevant, even though they have that balance of power. They've got a lot of issues to straighten out, not the least of which is the fact they're broke. And without rebates coming back with the share of the vote, they're going to be worse off financially. So, they've got a lot of work to do. I have no idea who their next leader will be. Hopefully there'll be time for us as well in the House to hold the Liberals to account. We need that time. I'm hoping that this government, that we have some time to hold them to account. What the NDP do, I don't know. I mean, it's a curious dynamic right now. And I wasn't there in the last Parliament, although watching it, be careful what you wish for, because what they wished for didn't happen, but their demise was a result of their arrogance in thinking that they could actually gain support of Canadians after what they did, after all those years supporting Trudeau.
Yeah, they seem to campaign on an anything but conservative type of campaign. And what it resulted in is anything but NDP. And it was the result, because they just lost trust of their constituents, lost trust of Canadians. And now it's on whoever this next leader of the NDP is going to be to rebuild that trust. And that race for that leadership starts in a couple of weeks.
You know, interestingly, and you've seen this over the course of the last couple of years, the new Conservative coalition is made up of a lot of people that might have traditionally voted NDP. And it was amazing to see at the rallies and the connection. I toured several plants with Pierre Poilievre, and his ability to connect with people that were in that sort of blue collar zone that would have never voted Conservative in the past. They want a piece of the Canadian dream. They recognize that it's no longer about left and right. It's about a leader who is going to deliver results for Canadians. And they came to Pierre Poilievre, and I saw that through the campaign. I found it curious, having been involved in so many different campaigns, that when this was happening at the doors, it was like, yeah, Pierre has touched a nerve with a lot of the people that never would have considered voting Conservative. But that's the new Conservative coalition, and that came right out of the NDP.
So as we move into the fall session, I think the Liberals are, well, we said they're in for it. You guys are coming, and you're coming with a whole lot of ammunition that the Liberals and Mark Carney has just laid out in spades for you. Over the campaign, all we heard from Mark Carney is this is, and I quote, the most significant crisis of our lifetimes, end quote. With regard to Donald Trump, he wants to break us, he wants to own us, he wants to take Canada. And then he went on vacation and Parliament rose, so obviously it wasn't that big of a crisis. And now he's trying to tell everybody, oh, well, even though the tariffs are twice as bad as when I arrived here, this is the best deal in the world, and everyone should just celebrate and not talk about Donald Trump anymore. What do you have to say to that? I think it's an
example of political gaslighting at its best. I find it's maddening for me. I get angry when I listen to the Prime Minister now say that Canada has the best deal in the world. No, we have the same deal that we had prior to the election, plus tariffs on steel and aluminum. It's not the best deal. We have CUSMA. It's going to be interesting to see, I think, as the Prime Minister flip-flops on virtually everything he campaigned on versus what he's saying now. I mean, this elbows up stuff is his hockey analogy. It's like he's playing goalie with his mask on backwards. This is where he is now. It's mind-boggling because none of what he actually says is true. We are not in a good position, and he keeps flip-flopping. He's not strong with Trump, I think Trump is playing him. When CUSMA opens up in the next year or so, that's where the rubber is going to hit the road. And this is where I'm hoping, well, I know that Pierre will be holding his feet to the fire on this, because there's big risk for Canada in the next year and a half as CUSMA gets reopened for renegotiation. We got a lot of work to do here.
Well, and the problem is Carney has already capitulated on so many different things to Donald Trump, even bad policy in the first place, like the DST tax. And now, to your point, they're going to go into CUSMA. Trump's going to want even more than what we were given in CUSMA. So we're going to have to give up even more, and we're going to be in even a worse position than we are even today.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not sitting in the House of Commons right now where these issues need to be debated. We are not getting the story from the Prime Minister. He's gotten a free ride over the summer, and the ride's over because virtually everything he's saying today is opposite to what he said during the campaign. I took the time to read his book, Values, and I want to ask, would the real Mark Carney please stand up? Because none of what's in that book is what he's reflecting as policy for the government today. So does he believe what he wrote, or is he telling Canadians what they think he needs to say in order to gain to keep government. I mean, that's not the reason we form governments. We form governments because we believe that we have the best policies to put forward to Canadians. And right now, it's just bizarre what I'm seeing. But when the House comes back, the questions will be asked.